get living with you. Let us pray. Most gracious and glorious God, we give you thanks that we are able to come here and be able to lift our voices in song, be able to have the words opened up, the wonders of your world spread before our eyes. So as we come here this day, Lord, be with us in our worship. And let the meditation of my heart, the words of my lips, always be acceptable in your sight. Amen. You may be seated. The gospel lesson is in Matthew, 23rd chapter, starting with verse 1. And this is the scripture about Jesus. After the scribes and the Pharisees had asked Jesus all these questions, Jesus comes up and starts addressing the scribes, the Pharisees, and the people. So hear these words. And Jesus said to the crowds and to his disciples, "The scribes and the Pharisees sit on Moses' seat. Therefore, do whatever they teach you, and follow it. But do not do as they do, for they do not practice what they teach. They tie up heavy burdens hard to bear, and lay them on the shoulders of others. But they themselves are unwilling to lift a finger to move them. They do all their deeds to be seen by others, for they make their paracletes broad and their fringes long. They love to have the place of honor at banquets and the best seats in the synagogues, and to be greeted with respect in the marketplace, and to have the people call them rabbi. But you are not to call them rabbi, for you have only one teacher, and you are all students. And call no one your father on earth, except because you have one Father, and one in heaven. Nor are you to be called instructors, for you have one instructor, the Messiah. The greatest among you will be servants, and all who exalt themselves will be humbled, and all who humble themselves will be exalted." These are the words of God for the people of God, and we say, thanks be to God. Let's look at the scripture. I think that most of the time that we are ourselves far better preachers than we are doers. Doers of what we preach or teach. And Jesus is looking at the approach this way as he defines the characteristics of the teachers of the law. Parents, and I know that you sometimes have told your children, I've told my children this, do what I say, not what I do. And you also usually ended up by saying, because I said so. Jesus said, do whatever they teach you. Do it. But do not practice what they teach. For in doing so, you tie up burdens on others, and they will not lift a finger to help. When one does right, and is doing the right things, but their heart is not in it, you're just mastering showmanship. That's all you're doing. Then we sometimes just make a routine out of duty. Sometimes we become mundane in some of the things that we do, like some of the things we do at church. Become so recognizable, we just do it out of duty because that's what we do. When in all reality, anything you do should be uplifting, and do it because you want to do it. Jesus is not just telling the disciples, but all the followers to follow the teaching of the scribes and the Pharisees. That's an affirmative for them guys. Jesus very seldom ever gives them an attaboy, but he's giving them an attaboy here. He's saying, you know, do what they do, tell you to do. Do what they teach you to do. Very affirmative response, but that's as far as it goes. He also calls them and all other religious types to be more than the persons who just talk a good game and never get in there to play. To follow through with what they are teaching. The scribes and the Pharisees are very interesting kind of people. They're religious legalists of their day. They know the law down to the minutest detail. And they have trained their minds to carry a vast knowledge of law. And they do have a burning dedication and devotion to God. And they're taking that away from them. They do have that. But Jesus' big argument, and he recognized that their showmanship is being passed off as being real, as being authentic. When in all reality, any work of God is really beneath them. How many of you know what today is? Besides Sunday.
My granddaughter's birthday.
Huh? It's All Hallows Eve. As known back down through centuries, we call it Devil's Night. Yeah, it's All Hallows Eve. And for the past several weeks, I don't know how many of you have noticed it, but we've been bombarded on TV with reruns of every scary movie I think that's ever been made. I watched a movie the other day. It's a silent movie about Dracula. And that was a scary looking character on there, even back to that day. And, you know, you got zombies, you got vampires, you got spooks and people with really long fingernails. There's even a guy running around somewhere with a hockey mask somewhere. They got monsters in all shapes and sizes. And it seems like the monsters are the flavor of the month for October. That's what it seems like. And it's not surprising to me that the popular culture has gotten the point of All Hallows Eve all wrong. You got it all wrong. And forget the ultimate point is to celebrate All Saints' Day, which is actually tomorrow. But we're going to celebrate that next Sunday. All Saints' Day is originally what it was designed to celebrate. And yet, we've turned it into something different. Not surprisingly. The ghouls, the monsters, they get center stage and adulation, and the saints, they get left to clean up the popcorn and the spilled soda on the theater floor. But the church sometimes, I believe, has gotten All Hallows and All Saints holidays all wrong as well. And we've been convinced that monsters are easily identifiable. Because monsters are warped, they're wicked, they're bent on mayhem, murder, and mischief. But outside Hollywood, I'm going to tell you the truth, they're not so identifiable. A classic monster is a creature that takes all the best of its qualities and uses them in the most horribly wrong way. The amazing ability of bats to negate the darkness and hunt silently and swiftly was made into movies about who? Dracula. When you think of bats flying at night, it's Dracula. They'd taken all that and made it into Dracula. And the agility and strength and speed of the wolf are transformed into the terrible hybrid called werewolf. Yeah, werewolf. Wolfman. Werewolf, wolfman. You know, Hollywood can do that stuff. But what the movies miss is the worst kind of monsters don't take life away in an instant. They suck out your soul over time. Jesus was preaching against such monsters. Individuals who took the qualities that they should have brought out the best in them, and yet they warped those gifts into misinformed messages. Misinformed messages. That's why sometimes I think we need to rehab Halloween. I think Halloween needs a rehab makeover. And if it's going to happen, it's going to have to be us that do it. If nobody else is going to do it for us, I think it needs to be rehab. Don't get me wrong. I love Halloween. I love it. You know, ever since I was old enough to go trick-or-treating, I loved Halloween. But there comes a time when we need to know what is real and what is false. We need to know that time. You know, sometimes I think people are still carrying it on way past the way they should. Our culture has turned Halloween into something to celebrate. And yet as Christians, we cannot overdo Christmas. We can't overdo it because we just might offend somebody. When you go around with Halloween trick-or-treating, you're not offending anybody. Well, maybe there might be a few people offended, but nobody's complaining about Halloween. That's one of those big commercial times of the year. Where have we gone wrong? We've gone wrong, people, somewhere. We've gone wrong. This whole country is behind Halloween, but Christmas, it seems, it becomes a fight just to be able to worship as one nation, the one who gave us our freedom to start with. It was God who gave us the freedoms here in this nation. And yet, we have trouble being able to worship that one God. Even this Halloween, we need to walk as Christians, and we can still celebrate with the little ghosts and goblins that's going to be coming to your door. And I'm sure the American Dental Association would agree with you, because it sends plenty of work their way. They will love it. But a lot of times, I think our leaders, even church leaders, political leaders, were just like the Pharisee of the day. Think about it. A lot of pastors, I may be one of them, I don't know, we're just like, and the leaders of our countries and our nations around the world are just like the Pharisees were. And Jesus had the criticisms about them. Let's see if you can recognize anything in this list that Jesus had to say about the religious leadership of the day. And this was all in just what I read today, in the little short verses. They did not practice what they taught. We call that hypocrisy. If you're not going to practice what you preach, then don't be hypocritical about it. They put heavy burdens on others, but not themselves. Legalism. It's legalism. They sought and loved public recognition. We call that pride, people. That's pride. Status, respect, titles are very important to them. It's arrogance. They lock people out of the kingdom. Judgmental. They establish laws to benefit themselves. That's greed. Anything sound familiar so far? They neglected to emphasize justice and mercy. Bias. And they were accomplices to silencing the prophets. Oppression. How does anything sound familiar? Has anything changed from the days of the Pharisees? Jesus calls us to a real trust in God and to humble ourselves in service to church and to the world. Temptations are ever before us to exalt ourselves, to impress others, to make a name for ourselves. But that's not how Jesus came, and that's not why Jesus came. This one pastor tells of his excitement of bringing into membership a university professor. Woo, yeah. How many professors are in here? Well, that's me out of the case. Doggone it. But he was excited about bringing this university professor in. And the pastor endeavored to prepare and deliver better sermons than he had before from the pulpit, as this prospective member continued to attend worship every Sunday. And later on, while reflecting with the pastor after he had joined the church, that the professor's joining had little to do with the sermons he heard, and had more to do with an elderly woman who consistently made him feel welcome and valued. Imagine that. That was what moved him into the Christian community. Imagine that. A Christmas spirit of hospitality outdid the pastor's sermon. That's blasphemous. No, not really. Because the pastor was trying to impress. He was trying to impress with his sermons. Servanthood over showmanship wins the hearts in many, many places. Servanthood, always first. I know I've said this before, I've said it a lot over at Memphis, but I'm going to repeat myself. Over in Memphis, they're given a great opportunity come November 5th to show hospitality, humility to a community that knows little about them. A lot of people who live in the city of Memphis do not know that church is down on the corner of Church Street in Maple, because it's not on any main roads. Sound familiar? But it's an opportunity because many from the community are going to be there this Saturday. And they're going to grace the walls of that church. And they're going to see the fellowship. And if they don't come out to see this, they're going to miss one of the greatest opportunities they've ever had. One of the greatest opportunities. But I'll tell you what, the next day, the people of that community will know where that church is at. They will know who the people are. Because if it's just me by myself, they will know who we are. Halloween. Does it need rehabilitation? I think so. I think we need to keep it fun for our children. But I think we have to change the mindset of those who, even the adults, who think about Halloween as being the perfect holiday. I love Halloween. I think it's great. I don't mind setting out, passing out candy. But there's a blessing every time a child comes up to the door and stuff, and I'm able to talk to a child just for a second. It's a blessing. But that's as far as it goes for me in Halloween. I might even dress up. Who knows? Done it before. I ain't scared. Yeah. It's a great time, but I think we need to rehab Halloween. And make it so that Christmas becomes just as important as Halloween to everyone. To everyone. But you know what? The choice is going to be yours. But that ball's in your court. I'll do what I can do. But I can't do it for you. Amen? Amen. Could I have the extra sponsor?